I never imagined my marriage would be a test of restraint, until a millionaire claimed my wife. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced, my palms grew clammy, and a cold sweat enveloped my body. I was sitting on our worn-out couch, the one we bought together during our first summer in the cramped little apartment. The walls were painted a soft yellow, filled with warmth and laughter, now echoing with tension. I felt the air thickening, as though the world outside was holding its breath. A text popped up on my phone, "Meet me at the Sapphire Lounge." It was my wife, Maya. Something in the way she typed felt cold, distant, like she was speaking a different language. We'd been married 3 years. 3 beautiful and chaotic years filled with love and battles. Maya, with her dazzling smile and spirited laughter, had dedicated her life to her photography. I lived for her. We shared dreams, plans, and whispers of forever. But shadows were creeping in. I sensed it. Often, she'd stare at her phone, her fingers tapping away messages I couldn't see, but that night, I thought it was just another late shoot. I packed up my feelings like an old suitcase, shoving them deep down. I couldn't shake the nagging thought in the pit of my stomach. What if it wasn't just a project? What if another man was waiting at that lounge? As I stepped outside, the city pulsed around me, lights shimmering like stars that had misplaced themselves. I knew where the Sapphire Lounge stood. High above the city, it was notorious for dreams of grandeur and hidden truths. My breath hitched. The music, laughter, and murmurs danced through the air, creating a chaotic symphony that pulled at my nerves. I arrived, hesitating at the entrance, a heavy weight on my chest. The plush interior swam with elegance, velvet curtains, rich perfumes, and laughter that sparkled like champagne. There she was. Maya. She stood at the bar, a radiant figure amidst the shadows. But beside her was him. Lucas Brandt, a billionaire infamous for his charm and reckless exploits. My heart thudded against my ribs. I watched from a distance. His hand rested casually on Maya's lower back. Her laughter rang out like music. My chest tightened. I felt a scream building inside me, but it was trapped. Were the glances he stole her way those of mere admiration, or did they hold something deeper? Then, she turned. Her eyes met mine. A fleeting moment of recognition. Was it shock? Guilt? I couldn't tell. I pulled on the collar of my jacket, pressing the lump in my throat down hard. Suddenly, the crowd thickened, as if it could swallow me whole. I was inches away from confronting her, demanding answers. But something inside held me back, a cautious echo in my mind warning me of the chaos that would ensue. What I didn't know was that just as my heart cracked open, a life-altering decision hung in the balance, ready to tear apart each thread of our lives. Was this moment a betrayal or an awakening? Would I confront her? Would I fight for what was mine, or let the tide wash it away? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The melody of life continued to swell around me, but inside, I felt like a ghost wandering through the chaos, unseen and unheard. I stayed rooted in place, the world a blur, as I fought to calm the storm raging in my heart. Just moments ago, solid ground had vanished beneath my feet, and now, every heartbeat echoed like the tolling of a bell, signaling the end of an era. I took a step back, then another, merging into the shadows of the bustling lounge. As much as I wanted to storm over and confront them, the fear of shattering everything held me in check. What could I possibly say? Hi Maya, I've just spent weeks sensing something is wrong, and here you are laughing with him. The very idea of the words tasted bitter on my tongue, and yet, the doubt hadn't stopped festering. I spiraled back to memories, our weekend trips, the quiet evenings wrapped in comfortable silence, the way she'd sigh contentedly and lay her head on my shoulder as if she were at home. That laughter used to be purely ours. But that warmth was now a faded echo, replaced by the chill of uncertainty. I caught a glimpse of her laughing freely, her eyes sparkling in delight as Lucas leaned in, closer and closer. A pang of jealousy cut through me, igniting an ache that reached deep into my core. I couldn't ignore the pit in my stomach that twisted tighter with each shared moment between them. How could she? A part of me wanted to turn and run, to hide from this truth that felt like a vice, squeezing every bit of love I'd given her, but just as quickly, I felt a subtle tug pulling me toward her. I couldn't rid myself of the flicker of hope that maybe I was just being paranoid, that perhaps it was all harmless. I thought of the wedding vows we had exchanged, vows that promised loyalty and love through every season we'd face. In that moment, standing in the shadows, I wanted to lean into that promise, to believe in the strength of our bond. As I prepared to turn away, my phone buzzed again, drawing me back to the reality that loomed over me like a dark cloud. It was a message from Maya. "Can we talk?" How could I possibly reply? The words I wanted to type about what? The man at the bar? Felt too raw, so instead, I stood there, staring at the screen as the world around me faded away. My thoughts spiraled again, searching for answers while desperately holding on to love, and then, like a ray of light breaking through the overcast sky, a small voice broke through my turmoil. "Excuse me? Are you okay?" A gentle hand rested on my arm, pulling me from my daze. A woman stood beside me, her worried brown eyes filled with compassion. I started, struggling to find the right words. "I'm not sure. You look like you've lost something. Or someone." Her voice was soothing enough to draw me in. I shook my head, the ache in my heart refusing to budge. Her name tag read Emily, and her warm demeanor brought a breath of calmness amidst my storm. In the midst of despair, a flicker of kindness ignited dormant hope within me. "It's complicated," I finally managed. "It happens to the best of us," she said softly. "If you want to talk, I'm here. I know this place can feel overwhelming." Somehow, her empathy made the shadows feel less daunting. I didn't want to burden an unfamiliar face with my pain, but at that moment, the weight felt lighter as I shared a little about my life with Maya and the struggle that now seemed insurmountable. Emily listened intently, nodding as I spoke. Each word spilled out like a river overflowing its banks, and with her attentive presence, I began to piece together the fragmented shards of my heart. The moments of despair joined hands with memories of joy, creating a strange mosaic of love and resentment. But just as we began to find a rhythm, my phone buzzed once more, a jarring reminder of unresolved tension. I glanced at the screen, and my heart sank. Maya had messaged again, but this time, the words held an urgent weight. "I can't explain here. Please. Meet me outside." The blood rushed to my head, the pounding in my chest amplifying with every second. I looked back to Emily, her eyes filled with the kind of understanding that felt like an invitation to seek clarity, to choose whether to follow the haunting echoes of my heart or to stay rooted in this moment of comfort. But I couldn't ignore the pull from Maya, the pleading in her message beckoning me outside. "I have to go," I whispered, feeling an invisible tether binding me to the love I so desperately wanted to save. As I turned to leave, Emily offered me a reassuring smile, the warmth of compassion lingering in the air like a fragile thread. Outside, the night air was crisp and bitter, carrying the scent of impending rain as I approached the entrance. Each step felt heavy with the weight of expectation, shadows casting long over the pavement, taunting my uncertainty. Maya stood there, illuminated under the soft glow of the street lamp, a figure caught between light and dark. When our eyes met, I felt a jolt of connection, tempered by fear and hope. But just as I opened my mouth to speak, a familiar laughter erupted behind me. Lucas, stepping out of the lounge, and in that moment, with the truth of my heart hanging dangerously in the balance, I realized I was standing on the precipice of a choice that would change everything. The laughter was an unwelcome intrusion, and as I turned to see Lucas, a knot twisted in my stomach tighter than before. He ambled out, his demeanor relaxed, utterly carefree. It felt as though the world around us had shifted, and I was standing among echoes of my own betrayal. I barely processed the conversation occurring between Maya and me. My focus was locked on Lucas, a man who had become the embodiment of my insecurities. What is going on here? Lucas asked, his voice infectiously easy, as though he hadn't just walked in on a charged moment, a confrontation poised to unravel. He looked at Maya with a lopsided grin, but I couldn't decipher if it was playful or predatory. Maya's face twisted with an expression I couldn't quite read. In that flicker of uncertainty, I ached to reach for her, to pull her away from the chaos. Instead, my feet felt like lead, rooted in place, awaiting the inevitable revelation of her truth. Nothing, Maya replied too quickly, her eyes darting between us, betraying her inner turmoil. It was the lie of a guilty conscience, and every instinct screamed at me to confront her. The sunlight illuminating the space between us felt heavy. It was the brightness of reality, stark and blinding. Let us leave then, Lucas suggested casually, oblivious or perhaps indifferent to the tension. My blood boiled, the casual familiarity in his voice cut straight through my resolve. Did he not see how sensitive this situation was? Did his charm know no bounds in the face of my heartache? Before I could muster the words, Maya's gentle hand lifted toward me, her fingers threading through the air like a desperate plea. Can we talk, just the two of us? She asked, her voice barely a whisper, yet filled with urgency that my heart sank. The world felt opaque at that moment, consumed by a haze I could neither shake nor comprehend. Still, I nodded, unwilling to abandon my fragile hope. Let us take a walk, I murmured, motioning for her to follow as I turned my back on Lucas, shoving aside the gnawing jealousy that threatened to consume me. That we walked in silence, the clamor of the bar fading with every step into the night. The air was thick with unsaid words, each breath between us heavy with uncertainty. Maya seemed to gather her thoughts, quiet resolve cooling the urgency that had sparked her earlier message. Finally, we stepped away from the streetlights to a darker part of the path, obscured by shadows. It felt like a sanctuary, yet the oppressive weight of our conversation loomed. You wanted to talk, I prompted, trying to sound calm, the trembling of my voice betraying my true feelings. I didn't know how to tell you, she began, her eyes now glistening under the sparse light, shadows caressing her features. But Lucas and I. It's not what you think. Every word felt like firewood upon the embers of my heart, sparking guilt and anger within me. What am I supposed to think? I replied more harshly than intended, feeling the heat in my cheeks as her brows knitted in distress. He's been supporting me. As the words tumbled out, they felt like stones launched into a pond, the ripples of their implications spreading far across the waters of my loyalty. After everything, my project's collapse and the stress it caused. I needed help. I thought I could get through it without needing you to worry, but her voice trembled, and I could see her fighting back tears. And using him, Maya? Are you really telling me that was your only choice? My voice cracked, and disbelief laced my words. How could she justify this? No! She exclaimed, stepping closer, her hands instinctively coming to clasp mine. I swear, it was just full of confusion. I was drowning without you there, and when Lucas offered a lifeline, I thought maybe the support would make it all better. I pulled back slightly, my heart aching as I waged war against the storm within me, fury, betrayal, yet the ever-persistent flicker of love that still held on. But you didn't choose me to help you. You chose him. The bitter taste of those words lingered, and a part of me longed to take them back, longing to rewind to our simpler days. I was scared. She shot back, her voice rising. I didn't think it would become this tangled mess. Please understand I never meant for it to go this far. Despair mingled with my anger, twisting tighter around my heart. I wanted to reach out, to assure her of my love, to tell her that we could overcome everything. But the gaping chasm of betrayal widened between us, with obstacles that felt impossible to bridge. As silence enveloped us again, the weight of her words pressed heavy. Then, from the darkened alley, a figure emerged, casting an ominous shadow against the flickering streetlight. My heart raced again, dread clawing at my throat as my eyes widened. What the hell is going on? The voice sent a chill spiraling through me. It was Lucas again, standing closer than I ever wanted him to. The tension turned electric as Maya's grip on my hand weakened. Doubt began to seep into our fragile connection. lucid yet unfathomable, I realized then that the choice before me had splintered into something more complex. Could I trust Maya's intentions, or was this a pivot into a far darker game where my heart would be the ultimate casualty? Despair pulsed in the air, mixing with the threat of inevitable confrontation. "Lucas, this isn't what you think," Maya said, her tone caught between fear and urgency. But I felt the fragile strands binding us begin to fray, unraveling with every breath. With the weight of the world crashing around me, I knew that the truth was far from over, and this night was no longer about revelations but about the battles we were all destined to fight. Maya's eyes darted between myself and Lucas, as if searching for some unspoken signal that might defuse the tension crackling in the air. My heart hammered loudly in my chest, drowning out the hushed night sounds that moments ago felt like they were holding their breath for us. I could see the fight in Lucas' stance. His posture radiated confidence, an apparent control that only aggravated my sense of helplessness. "Stay out of this, Lucas," I managed to say, the command slipping past my lips, less a suggestion and more a desperate plea. "But it is this," he shot back, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Seems you've got a situation to deal with, and honestly, I'm just here to lend a hand. Who am I to stand in the way of love's complexities?" His words dripped with an insidious charm, coaxing irritation from the depths of my being. "Lucas, please," Maya interjected, her tone urgent. "This isn't the time for games." But her voice only served to sharpen the tension on that darkened street, punctuated by the faint rustle of leaves above us, watching our intertwining fates unfold. "You're right," he replied, tilting his head, feigning seriousness. "This is a moment for truth. Let us talk about how you left him in the dust to chase shadows with me." My breath hitched, rage coiling tightly in my chest, a visceral response I barely understood. "Stop it!" I shouted, feeling the heat of my emotions press against the rising tide of unprocessed hurts. "You don't get to turn this into some cruel game, Lucas. You have no idea what you're doing." The unfairness of it all felt like a wound that kept opening, aching raw and unhealed. "Don't I?" He took a step forward, his audacity shining in the darkness. "You think I'm here to destroy what you have, but the truth is, you lost it yourself the moment you let her wander." A painful silence fell, heavy and suffocating, as my mind spun through memories seeking solace. I could see the moments where we shared laughter, where Maya's eyes sparkled with joy, the warmth of her affection radiating over both of us. But these memories felt like shards of glass that cut deeper now, reminding me of the vulnerability my heart had risked. "Lucas, stop." Maya's voice broke through my tumult, and I turned toward her, craving reassurance amidst the storm. "Please. I never meant for any of this to happen." The words hung between us, vacant and unfulfilled, a bridge that spiraled into darkness. "Maya," I began, aware that my voice faltered with worry, "do you want to fix this?" The question hung like a fragile thread, suspended in the tension of the night. She hesitated, and the pause felt like a storm brewing, both threatening and revealing. I held my breath, navigating the crosshairs of intense emotions, my hope pitted against despair. Then, as if the very heavens were listening to our strife, a flickering light streamed into the alleyway, casting a halo around her face, illuminating the conflict there. It was an inadvertent moment of hope, a brief reprieve from the darkness closing in around us. "I don't know," she finally confessed, the gravity of her truth weighing heavily. "I want to fix us, but I don't know how. I don't want to hurt you." Tears shimmered in her eyes, catching the remaining light, blurring my steady resolve. It was then that a sudden shift occurred in Lucas' expression. The smirk faded as realization washed over him. "Look at what you're losing, Maya," he said, his tone softer. "He's not the only one who can help you. Think carefully. This could be a test of your deeper desires." There was color and intensity in his words that had shifted. Perhaps it was the way he positioned himself, a subtle means of seduction wrapped in friendship, and it sent a stab of fear through me. In that moment, I saw the threat looming larger than I ever imagined. "Are you really going to stand there but I was cut short by the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching, rapid and purposeful. The sharp clatter jolted us from our shared turmoil. I turned, dread coiling in my gut as the figure rounding the corner came into view. It was Clara, my sister, her presence compounded with misunderstanding. What the hell is going on here? Clara exclaimed, her eyes widening at the sight of us, her piercing gaze darting between Maya and Lucas. The challenge in her tone sent tremors of betrayal through me. My pulse raced, the floor beneath my feet shifting, my heart dropping into my stomach. Would Clara become an unwitting participant in our tangled web? What a night, huh? Lucas said, waving his hand dismissively. Just casual late-night talk. He leaned back, the casual facade flecked with humor, like a predator biding his time. Casual? Clara shot back, eyes narrowing as they landed on me, searching for answers. More like a hot mess waiting to explode. The weight of her scrutiny blanketed me, igniting a wild urge to flee. Yet I remained paralyzed in place, caught in this web of chaos, my heart bewildered by the turmoil that surged around us. Truth and confusion fought for dominance in that shadowed moment, and as the distance between us shrank, I recognized with an unsettling clarity that the ties binding us were unraveling faster than I could bear to comprehend. Everything was coming undone, and the nights ahead would demand a reckoning. The silence that followed Clara's arrival felt less like an opportunity to breathe and more like an impending collision. Her presence intensified the already thick atmosphere of tension among us, pulling at the frayed edges of all our unspoken words. I stepped forward, desperate for clarity as I swallowed hard against the rising tide of emotions battering my chest. Clara, I can explain. Explain what? She interrupted, incredulous. That you're out here having a tête-à-tête with your ex while your girlfriend stands helplessly by? Sounds pretty self-explanatory to me. Each of her words landed like blows, sharp and unyielding. I could feel Maya's gaze on me, heavy with an expectation that filled me with dread. Before I could respond, Lucas shifted his weight, the air around him brimmed with a smug confidence. Don't underestimate the power of choices, Clara. Maybe it's not as black and white as you think. His words dripped with a smugness that threatened to consume all reason. Shut up, Lucas, I said, my voice low but laced with urgency. This isn't the time for your games. Isn't it? He replied. The game has already been played. Honestly, you're just living in the aftershocks. Maya started to speak, the tremor in her voice breaking through the tension suffocating me. I don't want this, any of this. I didn't mean for us to be here. Her admission hung in the air, a delicate wisp of regret that reminded me of everything I feared losing. Then what do you want? I pressed, the question catching in my throat as I gauged her expression. Hope mingled with despair, and the weight of the moment wrapped around us like a shroud. I want. She paused, her voice barely above a whisper. I want to feel secure again. To feel like I belong without being torn apart by what was. Just then, another unexpected sound sliced through the tension. My phone buzzed insistently in my pocket, pulling me from the brink of despair. I hastily fished it out, my heart racing as I saw the name lighting up the screen. Sarah, my mother. Not now, I uttered, fighting back the urge to ignore it, but the call was relentless, ringing out 5 times before I finally accepted before everyone could witness my inner turmoil. I have to take this, I said, backing away for a moment to answer. Excuse me. I stepped further down the alley, out of earshot from Clara's probing gaze and Maya's anxious eyes. Hey, Mom, I answered, trying to mask the layers of confusion beneath my voice. David? My mother sounded wary, the weight of her worry palpable through the phone. I didn't want to interrupt, but I've been hearing things. About you and Maya. I just wanted to check if everything is okay. I inhaled sharply, the air feeling suddenly heavier. It's complicated, Mom. I'm okay, but there's a lot right now. Complicated, she echoed, her voice breaking slightly. You know what your father always said. Complications don't erase the hard-ass truth. Are you still in love with her? The question struck me squarely in the chest, the air knocked out of my lungs. My gaze darted back toward the 2 figures in the alley, where Maya stood under Clara's watchful eye, Lucas now lurking nearby like a storm ready to unleash its wrath. How could I answer that when everything felt so fragile? Mom, I started, but Clara's angry voice boomed from the alleyway, interrupting my thoughts. David, you need to come back. Now. Every instinct screamed at me to run back to them, but the cryptic warning from my mother hung heavily in the air. I bit my lip, torn between my past and the shards of my unresolved future. Mom, I'll call you back, I said, hanging up without waiting for her reply. I sprinted back to the alley, finding Clara rigid with anger and Maya looking lost, as if caught in a whirlpool of doubt. What's happening? I asked, my voice strained as I tried to understand the tension. Maya needs to decide, Clara declared fiercely. Do you really think this is just about you two? Her eyes darted toward Lucas, who wore an infuriatingly casual facade tinged with mischief. There are other stakes at play here. The urgency in Clara's voice drove a spike of fear into my heart. What other stakes? I looked at Maya, searching her eyes for a glimmer of something understanding, perhaps, or hope, but found only apprehension and uncertainty. I can't take this anymore, Maya said, her voice breaking, tears spilling down her cheeks. I feel like I'm trapped. David, I'm lost. Just then, Lucas spoke up. Why don't we let fate decide? He chuckled softly, leaning against the wall. You always said you don't believe in endings, only new beginnings, Maya. Why not take a chance? Chance? I repeated incredulously. You're seriously suggesting that? It's reckless. Maybe that's where you're wrong, Lucas shot back. Recklessness can sometimes lead to the most profound truths if you're brave enough to find them. In that frenzied moment, under the watchful eyes of my sister and the unsettling influence of Lucas, I felt the ground beneath me crack. The heavy burden of uncertainty yawned open wide, ready to swallow us whole, and I grasped desperately at the threads of what we had built, now hanging by a mere fraying wish. And then Maya, her tears glistening like fragile glass caught in the light, whispered a truth that would change everything. David, maybe we need to see if our love can withstand Lucas' challenge. My heart trembled at her words, and just as the weight of her request settled in, I caught the glimmer of a new truth unfolding, a test of love intertwined with vulnerability, the stakes soaring higher than I had ever dared imagine. But as I stood, a deep unease washed over me. Would I lose her to the very game that tempted us all, or could love finally take root amidst the chaos? As we stared at each other, each wrapped in our fears and hopes, I felt the world tilt and turn, teetering on the edge of an uncertain future, waiting for the plunge into the unknown. The moment hung suspended, heavy with unspoken challenges. I was drowning in possibility, the weight of Maya's words wrapping around me like a vice. The very air felt charged, crackling like the sky before a storm, and the world around us faded into a blur. For a heartbeat, I wondered if I could bear to gamble everything. Was it even fair to ask Maya to risk what we had built together? My heart raced, caught between the fear of letting go and the thrill of something new. The specter of Lucas loomed at the edge of my consciousness, a tempting whisper urging me toward recklessness. Are we really doing this? I finally managed to say. The tremor in my voice betrayed the turmoil that roiled within me. Maya, still trembling, raised her tear-streaked face, her eyes torn between hope and desperation. What's the alternative? Pretending everything is fine while we feel this. She gestured between us, her fingers trembling. This weight? Clara's voice cut through the tension again, sharp and incredulous. This isn't some social experiment. You're jeopardizing real feelings for some misguided sense of adventure. Her brows knit together in frustration, but there was a flicker of concern in her expression, a silent plea for us to reconsider, but Lucas stepped forward, seemingly invigorated by the uproar. Doesn't it make sense? We're on the brink of something profound, and here you are, terrified of what's next. Don't you want to see how deep the rabbit hole goes? Maybe we should take a moment to breathe, I implored, glancing back at Maya. This isn't just some game. We're talking about our lives, our hearts. Maya bit her lip, her resolve flickering for just a moment. But if we never take that leap, how will we know? What if this is our chance to truly discover what we mean to each other? The desperation bubbled in her words, and as she spoke, I felt the tide of hope unfurling, an intense yearning for something I couldn't quite grasp. What if it ruins us? Clara pushed back, her voice rising. You have something beautiful right here, David. Before I could respond, Lucas leaned closer, a glint of mischief in his eyes. Isn't that the point shaking up the status quo? You can't grow without feeling a little pain. But what if you emerge stronger? What if love transcends everything else? Chills raced down my spine at his words. For every ounce of frustration I felt, there was also a twisted sense of truth in them. What if Maya and I dared to disrupt everything and explore the depth of our commitment? Yet the thought of losing her was an anchor, holding me back from the edge of a fearful decision. Whatever happened to us wanting a future together? I asked weakly, urgency clawing at my throat. What if this game pulls us apart? Maya's gaze softened, though her resolve remained firm. Maybe that's the paradox we need to confront. David, I want you entirely. I need to know if we can stand the test of doubt. Lucas smirked, clearly enjoying the fallout from our turmoil. Then let us make it interesting. What if we pose a challenge, a set of trials, if you will? Each of you must complete a task handed down from the group. But here's the catch, if either of you can't fulfill it, or if you hesitate too long, stop. I barked, cutting through the tension. You're toying with something way too precious. Or maybe, you're just afraid of the truth. Lucas countered, his smile widening. As the atmosphere crackled with a roiling mixture of desire, fear, and impending decision, the shadows lengthened, looming ominously over us. I turned to Maya, whose eyes glimmered with a mixture of defiance and vulnerability, the same blend that had drawn me in from the beginning. Maybe I am, I admitted quietly. But I can't bear the thought of losing you for real. Then let us confront it, she replied, determination coloring her voice like a vibrant brushstroke across a canvas. In the end, we'll know where we really stand. But just as I opened my mouth to agree, a loud crash echoed down the alley, the unmistakable sound of shattering glass. Suddenly, amidst the chaos of emotions, there it was, a tantalizing slice of the unknown revealing itself. Clara jumped back, her composure slipping. Lucas straightened, the confidence fading from his expression. The moment hung thick in the air, thickening like the dread settling in my stomach. Did anyone else hear that? Someone whispered, puncturing the fragile bubble around us. I exchanged glances with Maya, uncertainty churning into an unmistakable fear as we turned toward the sound. The alley seemed to hold its breath as a tall figure emerged from the shadows, cloaked in mystery, their features obscured by darkness. As hope and dread wove tighter, I felt the ground beneath me shift, teetering yet again on the cusp of revelation. Who are you? I managed to ask, the chill of foreboding washing over me. The figure stepped forward, settling into the dim light, and as recognition dawned, the weight of an unimaginable truth slammed into me. I can't let you play this game without knowing the stakes, they said, and I froze, heart pounding, as a familiar voice sent shivers down my spine. The air thickened around us, tension tightening like a string pulled too taut. My heart raced as I faced the person who had emerged from the shadows, Diana, my estranged sister. The world seemed to dissolve around her presence, creating a vacuum of emotions I hadn't anticipated. Diana? I breathed, fighting the urge to step back. Though years had passed since we last spoke, years filled with unhealed wounds and silence, her face was unmistakable. The sharp angles of her cheekbones, the flicker of rebellion in her eyes, they were unchanged despite the years. What are you doing here? I heard whispers, she replied, her voice laced with a blend of defiance and sorrow. About you, about what's happening. She shifted her gaze to Maya, assessing her with a wary yet curious expression. I had to see it for myself. Whispers? Clara echoed incredulously, stepping forward. What do you mean, what whispers? Diana straightened, her posture brimming with latent strength. People don't just let go of their pasts like they flip through pages of a book, Clara. Especially not when mountains of betrayal and heartache lie between them. She let the words hang in the air, heavy with unspoken memories. Maya shot me a concerned glance. I could feel her apprehension as she sorted through the revelations processing in her mind. Are you here to warn us? She asked, her voice quivering slightly. I'm here to warn you about the consequences of choices, Diana replied, her voice steadier now, resonating with undertones of regret. But mostly, about the man who wants to reel you into his web. I know what Lucas can do, and he won't let you go easily once you've ignited his interest. My thoughts spiraled. Lucas' challenge felt both trivial and monumental, now a puppet show run by a skilled puppeteer who plucked at our heartstrings. Just as I thought I'd resolve the chaos within, a new storm swirled around us, stirring doubts that I thought I'd set aside. Lucas has nothing to do with this, I shot back defensively, even as the memory of our initial conversation sparked worry to life again. This is between Maya and me. It isn't just a game. Diana crossed her arms, her gaze unwavering. You think you know him. You think you understand the depths of what he can offer, but I've seen it before. He knows how to manipulate insecurities, twisting relationships until nothing remains but shards of broken dreams. But that's a choice you've made, Diana. I snapped, frustration building. Why are you here, really? To judge me? To lecture? I'm here because family means something to me, she countered, the steel in her tone softening. And you're about to walk into a storm that could tear apart everything we have left. I lost my chance to stand by you. I don't want you to make the same mistake. The noise of the city bubbled around us, indifferent to our turmoil. Yet all I felt was the weight of her words that clung to my heart like mist, pushing me further into uncertainty. Maya's quiet voice broke through my spiraling thoughts. So what do we do? Vulnerability laced her question, and somewhere deep inside, I sensed the urgency of her desire to resolve the tension wrapping around us. Diana took a step forward, and for the first time, I heard the quiver in her strength. You need to understand that you're allowing a storm to gather, tangled in bravado and desire. Are you truly ready to risk everything your heart has built? In that moment, a glimmer of connection bridged the chasm between us. I looked at Maya, searching her eyes for answers. The collision of past and present drew us together, the air heavy with unspoken choices. Maybe we do need to pause and think, I finally said, unsure of how my admission would be received. Maybe we don't just leap blindly, it's not just about us. Maya's gaze softened, revealing a hint of surprise and gratitude. Then let us take a step back, she proposed, and reevaluate what we really want. Lucas, noticing the shift, stepped forward, eyes flickering with irritation. What are you three whispering about? He barked, frustration evident on his face. Do you honestly think stalling will help? You're just postponing the inevitable. Before I could address Lucas, Diana interjected. If it's a challenge you want, let us put something real on the table. The shift in the air around us became palpable, the stakes rising higher as she spoke. How about a chance for truth? Each of you shares a secret you've never spoken aloud. The group fell silent, the enormity of her suggestion wrapping around us like a shroud. Secrets lay dormant within our hearts, festering like wounds that needed to breathe. Could we expose our vulnerabilities for the sake of clarity? My pulse quickened, and I turned to Maya. In that brief sacred moment, a kind of understanding sparked between us. If we were to challenge the foundations of our relationship, perhaps unveiling our innermost fears could forge a new path. But as I opened my mouth to agree, the sharp ring of my phone interrupted us, breaking the fragile tension that had enveloped the alley. The screen flashed a name I hadn't seen in ages: Elena, my estranged wife. David, pick it up. Clara urged, eyes wide with anticipation, her voice barely above a whisper. Now? I asked, caught between shock and dread. Before you lose this chance, Clara urged, brows furrowing. With trembling hands, I swiped to answer the call, breath caught in my throat, the weight of uncertainty crashing down like a tidal wave. What awaited me on the other end? Would the past return as an ally or an enemy? The impending revelation made my heart race, a truth I never saw coming. As the echo of Elena's name faded into the stillness of the alley, an unsettling mix of emotions gripped me. I hesitated, the warmth of nostalgia colliding with the icy tendrils of hurt. Elena? I said finally, forcing the word out as if it were foreign to my tongue. David, her voice came through, shaky but steady, laced with a hint of vulnerability that pierced through the nuances of our fractured past. I need to talk. Now? I didn't want to sound incredulous, yet how could she choose this moment to reach out? My thoughts were still heavy with Diana's warning, the air infused with tension from our earlier conversation. You decided to call me now? Please, she pressed, her plea unfolding like fragile wings. It's important. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Glimpses of our life together danced in my mind. The laughter echoing through our apartment, the late-night conversations that stretched until dawn. It was a time colored with love, now tainted by biting memories of betrayal and misunderstandings. What could possibly be so important that you couldn't say it to me sooner? I've heard things, David, she admitted, her voice thick with fears that felt cognizant of the demons lurking in our shared history. About what's happening? About you and Maya. Time froze as her words sank in, creating ripples of confusion that splashed against the delicate structure of my reality. What do you mean, heard things? Lucas, she replied sharply, and the name hung suspended in the air, an anchor of dread. I understand he has a hold on you, and I don't want to see you slip away again. Clara and Maya exchanged glances, sensing the gravity of the situation. This wasn't merely a conversation about trust. It spiraled into a political arena where loyalties collided and alliances shifted, threatening to dismantle everything I fought to protect. I'm not slipping anywhere, I snapped, anger bubbling at the edges of my control. You know that's not what this is about. The fight within me wrestled against the rising tide of emotions that threatened to pull me under. Elena, I continued, softer this time, what do you want from me? Are you here to guilt me into returning? Because that's not fair. I want you to hear me. Her voice cracked, revealing a vulnerability I took for granted too often. I love you, David. I never stopped. But I see you teetering on the edge of something dangerous, and I can't just stand back and watch it happen. The sincerity behind her words hit like a freight train. There was sweetness and pain intertwined, the bitter taste of longing. I glanced at Maya, who stood with her chin lifted, uncertainty flickering in her expressive eyes. Could she see the war raging in my heart? I don't know what's going to happen, Elena. You're the last person I expected to call me, I said, the weight of indecision heavy in my chest. Why now? Because you deserve the truth. And maybe, just maybe, it's time we start offering each other the honesty we've both denied. What do you truly want? Her question darted like a lightning bolt, illuminating the darkness of my doubts. The alley echoed with my silence, where walls had previously been fortified by secrets hungered for exploration. Perhaps it was time to press against those barriers again, not only for myself but for what lingered between Maya and me. Maya and I are trying to figure things out, I admitted hesitantly. There's so much going on, and I still need to understand my own feelings. Before Elena could respond, Diana's sharp voice stirred the atmosphere, the potential for revelation prickling in the air. Maybe now's the time for both of you to unravel those feelings, David. Show her the trust you've been building. Maya stepped closer, her gaze fierce yet tender. What are you saying, Diana? We don't have to involve her in this. I'm simply stating what's true, Diana countered, her intensity unfaltering. You both have a choice to make. Will it be an open heart or the safety of walls? Will you let the past dictate your future? Elena cleared her throat, her breath breaking through the tension. David. I'm here, willing to work through it. If I can't reach you through the pain, then tell me how to help. Her willingness stood as a flicker of hope in the fractured space where love once bloomed, but the complications were cavernous. I could feel the weight of every moment, every choice teetering on the precipice. I don't know, Elena, maybe it's too late, I said softly, the admission tasting bitter and foreboding. Maybe not, she replied gently, the tender grace in her voice wrapping around the shards of my heart. Yet, just then, as if the universe hadn't already piled enough turmoil onto my crumbling sense of self, Lucas' voice cut through the fragile respite we had created. He stood a few paces behind, the smirk on his face unfurling sinisterly against the backdrop of our emotional battlefield. Well, isn't this just sentimental? A family reunion of sorts. How delightful. With every ounce of resolve collapsing into dread, I realized that his very presence ignited a tumultuous storm, and I grasped the hazard looming over everything that was being rebuilt. I had a choice to expose or protect, to stand by those I loved or succumb to the whispers of temptation. In that moment, a new truth echoed where choices still loomed, one that I would either embrace or ultimately walk away from, and in that transformative space, the confrontation was not merely between hearts but against a force that threatened to consume the remnants of what once was. I was standing at the edge of an abyss, grasping for answers amidst the chaos, wondering if this moment would define us or shatter everything we fought for. Elena's gaze darted to Lucas, her eyes pooling with confusion and fear. David, who is he? The question hung in the air, unbearably weighted, a tether to everything we had tried to resist. I could feel the tension in Maya beside me as she shifted uncomfortably, wrestling with the implications of Lucas' appearance and the secrets we had yet to share. This doesn't concern you, Lucas, I said carefully, trying to maintain some semblance of control. Doesn't it? He chuckled, the mockery so apparent in his tone that it sent a shockwave of anger winding through me. I see what's happening here. A half-hearted reunion, built on trust, how quaint. But I'll let you in on a little secret, David, these fragile bonds will falter in the face of truth. Enough, Diana declared, her voice cutting through Lucas' taunts with fierce authority. You're not welcome here, and your twisted games end now. For a fleeting moment, it felt like we could have the upper hand. Hope flickered. But Lucas merely grinned, unfazed by her dismissal. Oh, come now. Don't you all want some clarity? Because in my world, clarity comes at a cost. What if I told you I know something that could obliterate that illusion of safety you're clinging to? My heart plunged at the implications swirling through his words. What are you talking about? I grated, the bitterness in my voice belying the terror gathering in my chest. I know about your lovely wife's little secrets, David, he sneered, his eyes narrowing in delight. And believe me, what I have could change everything you thought you understood about your relationship. Elena recoiled, the color draining from her face. What secrets? Her voice was barely a whisper, threading through the fabric of my resolve and unraveling it. I'll leave it to your beloved to figure that out, Lucas taunted, tilting his head as if he were sizing us up for a final judgment. But why would I tell you? This is far more entertaining. As I read the silhouettes of confusion on Elena's and Maya's faces, panic began to seep into me. Lucas wielded power over our lives like a sword, its edge sharp and unrelenting. There was a truth lurking in the shadows, desperate to emerge, but it felt treacherous to give him the satisfaction he craved. Elena, I began, wanting to shield her from Lucas' machinations, yet my voice faltered. I knew what lay beneath the surface. My secrets began to take a life of their own. She turned to me, the urgency in her eyes mirroring the anxiety knotting my stomach. What does he mean? Listen, I said, desperately trying to hold on to the fragments of our reality. We don't have to engage with him right now. We can address this together. Together? Lucas laughed, an echo of malice that sent chills down my spine. Oh, but you're mistaken, David. She deserves to know the truth. Don't you see? If you don't tell her, I will. The threat loomed like the heavy clouds that gathered before a storm. My heart raced, the idea of losing everything to the winds of betrayal clawing at me like a beast. What do you want from me? I asked Lucas, hoping to regain some measure of control. I want you to consider the choices you've made and the ones you still can. If trust is a fragile thing, David, then shouldn't you think long and hard about who you place it in? His smirk broadened, a flicker of joy illuminating something dark within him. Maya moved closer to me, her presence a reminder of the weight of my choices. David, she murmured, her voice low, we can't let him. But before she could finish, Lucas interrupted her, tilting his head toward Elena. You know, she might appreciate a little upsell, don't you think? Transparency can be refreshing. Shut up. I exploded, the frustration spilling over like molten lava. I had never wanted to lose my temper this way, but Lucas knew how to stoke the flames. Elena stepped forward, her strength rebounding. David needs to be honest with me about all of it. Her words were sturdy, a declaration that silenced the atmosphere that I felt the weight of her challenge pressing against my conscience, the walls of my heart threatening to crumble under the scrutiny. Yet beneath it all, there was a glimmer of hope. I could still find a way through this mess, a path that led to healing, but Lucas wasn't finished. The fire in his eyes burned brighter as he reveled in the chaos. "Oh, I do love a good showdown. How about we raise the stakes? I will give you until sunset tomorrow to decide whether you'll come clean willingly, or I'll expose everything myself." "No," I protested, my heart racing with dread. "You can't care to test me?" Lucas replied with a smirk, disappearing into the shadows of the alley with an unsettling air of triumph that I turned back to Elena and Maya, panic flooding my veins. "What do we do?" I asked, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me like a thick fog. Elena stood before me, her expression a blend of fear and resolution. "You need to tell me the truth," she insisted, her voice steady amidst the turmoil. "Whatever it is, we can face it together, can't we?" As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a haunting twilight, dread twisted in my gut. I had a choice to make, a glimpse of hope tangled with the monster rising in the dark, ready to unravel everything I held dear. But the truth was a jagged knife poised to cut deeper than I could ever imagine. The rain began its slow descent, soft at first, as if the heavens themselves were crying for the chaos below. I stood at the edge of what felt like an unbridgeable chasm, my mind racing with the implications of Lucas' ultimatum. The night air felt tense, charged with unspoken fears and buried truths that clawed at the surface, threatening to shatter the fragile walls we built around our hearts. That I looked from Maya to Elena, each woman representing a part of my life that had been intertwined and yet incredibly separate. To navigate this storm of emotions, I felt torn between risking everything and the desire to protect those I loved. The rain, now picking up intensity, masked my own unease, mingling tears with droplets that kissed the ground. "Maya," I began, my voice hoarse, "I need to be honest with you." It was a leap of faith, one I felt I had to take to bridge this expanding gap between us. I thought I could put everything behind me, but I can't pretend the past doesn't matter anymore. The truth is, there are things about my marriage to Elena that I kept buried, things that I've never fully reconciled. Her gaze dropped, shadows clouding her usually vibrant eyes. "David, please, whatever it is, I want you to tell me. We can't keep dancing around these issues. I need all of you, and I can't breathe in a fog of secrets." Elena stepped a little closer, her brow furrowed in concern. "You don't have to go through this alone, David. Whatever comes out, we'll face it together. Just be honest." Her voice was soft, yet the firmness behind it pierced through me, just like Lucas' earlier threats had. That I swallowed hard, my throat tightening as I wrestled with the weight of my past. The events of that tumultuous period loomed large in my mind, my failed attempts to salvage a marriage that had become a battlefield of misunderstandings and regrets. I stayed with Elena for so long, partly out of love, but also partly due to fear. Fear of being alone, of accepting my own mistakes, of failing again. I never wanted to admit that I was struggling emotionally until I did something terrible. I shut myself off from the world. Maya's expression softened, tears brimming in the corners of her eyes. "I wish you had told me sooner. It would have brought me clarity about what we were building. I can't process this betrayal without knowing the full extent." She took a deep breath, a tremor in her voice. "But I trust you, David. I want to believe in us. I need that." Elena remained silent, her face a mask of conflicting emotions. "And what about me?" she asked, the hurt in her voice wrapping around the tumult in the air. "Where does this leave us? Are we only a shadow of the what could have been?" I took a step closer to both women, the rain now cascading, enveloping us in a shroud. "You both deserve more than shadows. You deserve honesty. The truth is, I do love you both, my past with Elena and my future with you, Maya. But I also need to disentangle what our love really means against the backdrop of my own mistakes. I can't ignore the past for the fear of hurting someone. It's time we face it head on." Elena's breath caught as she absorbed my confession. "You've admitted so much, David," she struggled to maintain composure. "I always thought we could fix things if we just tried harder, but I've seen too clearly where that led us." Her voice cracked, revealing an unnamed sorrow that rested on her shoulders. But you didn't tell me the whole truth when it mattered. You allowed my love to suffocate in uncertainty. I didn't mean to hurt you, I whispered, guilt pooling in my gut. I was lost, trying to find meaning in all the places that felt void of light. I'm sorry, Maya said softly, tears spilling now. I needed you to be present, and I can't bear the idea of living in someone else's shadow, waiting for a promise that hangs on doubt and resentment. Suddenly, with a loud crash of thunder, time itself seemed to halt around us. The wind swirled, wrapping us in a tempest of emotions as the rain poured down with fury, leaving little room for the lies we had clung to. Then, a silence descended upon us, heavy but palpable, giving a sense of clarity amid the storm, the realization that vulnerability could be the very force that saved us. David, Elena said, her voice steadier, we've spent so much time weaving through each other's unresolved feelings that we've both lost sight of what we wanted. Moving forward, I choose to put myself first for once. Our history will always be a part of me, but it's time I close that chapter. I want to rewrite our story, but the reality is, it may not be together. Pain pierced through me like a lightning bolt, but it was somehow liberating. I felt the release of pent-up fears shadowing our past lives. I understand, I said, a lump forming in my throat. And, I won't hold that against you. Elena nodded, her chin quivering as she stepped back from the storm that had swallowed us. But just know, should you need a friend, I will always be here. I'll always cherish our memories, I called after her, my heart heavy. You know that. Then it was just me and Maya, exposed in the cool rain, raw and unguarded. I can't promise I won't always cling to the fear of losing what we have, I said softly, my chest heaving, breath coming harder now. But if I'm going to forge a future with you, I need to trust myself, trust you, and trust that the love we have isn't temporary. It can withstand anything. Can you allow me that chance? Maya wiped her tears, her gaze unwavering. I want that, she whispered. More than anything else, I want us, just us. It felt like time had granted me an extension, the tension dissipating, a reconciliation among the remnants of our collision. But suddenly, panic clawed at me. I thought of Lucas and his ultimatum. Fear gripped my heart again. What about Lucas? He'll expose everything. Maya's eyes lit up fiercely, determination igniting her spirit. Let him. We've chosen to be honest. The truth will set us free. Besides, he doesn't define our relationship. We do. It's our choice how we proceed. The thunder rolled in the distance as I stood there, the rain drenching me but now somehow purifying. I felt like a new man, renewed confidence bolstering my resolve. I took Maya's hand tightly in mine, our fingers intertwined, cementing our shared bond. It was a lifeline in the swirling storm of doubt that had threatened to drown us both. As we walked back towards the street, I could see the outline of Lucas lurking there. But this time, I felt different, ready to confront the storm, ready to reclaim my voice. David! Lucas shouted, stepping forward with that infuriating grin. Did you make a choice? Maya squeezed my hand, a silent affirmation of our unity. Yeah, Lucas. I made a choice, I replied, my voice steady and unwavering. I choose the truth, and I choose love. The difference is, it's the power of our love that will decide what comes next. And as the skies opened wide, pouring rain down as if to cleanse us, Maya and I stood side by side, prepared to face whatever awaited. Together. It was in that moment of clarity, in the chaos of doubt and betrayal, that I realized something profound. Sometimes, love isn't just about holding on, it's about fearlessly letting go, allowing ourselves to be reborn into something far more beautiful. And in the quiet aftermath, as my heart raced with purpose amid the downpour, I found a promise worth every raindrop, knowing that love, in all its messy glory, was always worth fighting for.